Hello and welcome to MXM Live. We are delighted to have here with us Mr. Shamsuddin Jasani or Shams Jasani, who is the CEO of Wunderman Thompson. Welcome to MXM Live, Shams.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure.
You know, just before we do any interview, I speak to a whole lot of people about the person whom I'm going to do, try to dig in for some information, etc. But I must confess to you that there was a good section of people who knew a lot about you and who said some wonderful things about the new Wunderman Thompson big boss. But there were some people who did not know you well enough. So one of the things which I want to do in this through this conversation is really get to know who the real Shams Jasani is and who is
Sure.
the new boss of I was almost going to say Isobar because you were there for ever and ever, right? Who the new boss of Wunderman Thompson is. But
Yeah.
coming to this, must have been quite a decision for you to move from somewhere where you were comfortable. You were there from in Isobar for what now 13 years.
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years. 13 years is a long, and you were what employee number one at
Yes. I
Isobar.
started it. Yeah.
You started it. So, you started it. So must have been quite a decision, momentous decision.
Yeah, it is. But I think it was a very important decision. And we'll talk about it when we go ahead as to why the decision came across and why, I took the decision of, kind of changing and making this move because I did believe in a way where the future of the agency model itself should be. And I think it was just it was a very good time in terms of where I think the agency model should have been and where I think Wunderman Thompson is growing and going into the future, and kind of our visions met. And I think that's where I thought that okay, this is the time to for me to take a plunge, because in Dentsu I was wearing multiple hats beyond Isobar. But I think Wunderman Thompson is going absolutely in the right direction from where our business should evolve into. So yes, it was beyond a point. It was a no-brainer for me.
Clearly, as we look back, it seems to be a no-brainer and perhaps an interesting move. But there are a host of people, and I must confess that even we wrote an article, kind of alluding to it after you had joined, about the fact that people had just about recovered or reconciled rather to the fact that their favorite agency JWT, was no longer JWT Wunderman, but it was Wunderman Thompson. It was not. So the fact that another agency and another lesser agency, as they would say, at least in India, was the first name and but even then, there was a true blue advertising person, true blue creative advertising person who was with them. But clearly the move to have you was an indicator of the shape of things to come, the way the bosses at Wunderman Thompson internationally want the agency to be, and and people from within the country and the client set obviously want the agency to be. Is that something that you think is perhaps the right thing, or did you feel that here was an organization which is iconic, and this is part of the quote that you've also statement that you made. It is an iconic agency.
Absolutely.
We've all grown up to the fact that this is HTA. HTA became JWT. You've had some, fantastic clients and fantastic creatives, etc. And now this agency was going to become, dramatically different.
I think the number one thing, and that's what I said, I think the idea of Wunderman Thompson and where it's the evolution of Wunderman Thompson is going, I think it's the right time for me to come in to really take Wunderman Thompson where it needs to go from an agency model perspective. But kind of taking a step back and being very clear, it's about taking what Wunderman Thompson and the history of Wunderman Thompson has been all about. It's almost a 9 decades old history in India, which is a fantastic history. So number one thing that I want to make sure is that the entire Wunderman Thompson team understands that we've been the pioneer of advertising in India for the longest time. We've been the leading light for advertising the longest time. It's about us believing in that. So that doesn't change. The history doesn't change. The the legacy doesn't change. That's always been our building blocks. It's just about taking that foundation and building it to be, much better for the new world that we are living in. I think that's pretty much the right way I wanted to point it out, in terms of saying that it's not at all about forgetting the past. It's about actually understanding and pretty much also being proud of that and taking that into a future is one of my key thinkings. But at the same time, I had a thinking in and I had a thought in terms of where the agency of the future should be and what it should look like, so that the clients can kind of look at us more than just an agency, but more as an entire partner in the entire consumer journey. So what we as an agency have always been doing, and beautifully doing it over the period of time, is we've been creating great brand experiences for clients for generations. I mean, for decades now. How do we take that understanding of consumers and the consumer first approach to now talk about the entire customer experience journey, not just the brand experience journey? And that's, I think, where a large part of our evolution will go as Wunderman Thompson. So build on top of what we have. We will always be, our bread and butter will always be creating great brand experiences, understanding consumers, and then how can we work with clients on that entire consumer journey is something that I think the evolution of our business model will go into. And because we've always understood consumers so well, I don't think it's a very difficult transition for us to make. So I think that's number one. Number two is creative will always be front and center of what we do. Our creativity, we are a creative agency, that does not change. Creative will be about saying how can we at every step of that consumer journey use creative to be able to attract and involve the consumer and make sure that they are having the right kind of conversations at every step of that consumer journey. So I think that is a very important part. And of course, all this will be layered by a layer of technology and commerce. I think finally, when we are talking about all these experiences, how do I bring them alive through technology, and commerce is going to be, I think, the idea of Wunderman Thompson as we go forward. So I kind of also, took away in terms of saying that where I think Wunderman Thompson needs to go to. But I think that was important for me to say, is that we're going to take that what we've been doing always, and amazing things that we've been doing, but we're going to build on top of that to get more and more important in the scheme of things with clients.
So when you were first made the offer of joining Wunderman Thompson as the CEO and to lead the effort, what were your first thoughts in terms of what did you've spent a lifetime in the creative business in the country, and in another network, so you obviously had a view about what the agency is. So what was your view then about the agency and what you thought about the entire model?
Yeah, I think always something which is respected for all this time. I mean, I did my, I think I've said this before, and I did my summers almost more than 2 decades ago in HTA, the summer project in HTA. That's how my advertising career actually started. And it's like, after, so I've seen that, I've seen the evolution of it from afar. Of course, as you said, in another network, and I've seen that as happening. But I think that when I had this chat, I knew that Wunderman Thompson had already got most of the ingredients in place to be able to do this transition. It was just about kind of getting all of them together and really making it work as one. I think that was about it. So I was when the initial discussions happened, I think the meeting of thoughts happened. I think it was just it was something which I felt excited about, and I think it's that journey started. So yeah, happy about it.
So if there's that one thing that you would like to say, I know you've kind of said it already, but if there's a one change that you would say has happened or will happen in the all new Wunderman Thompson, what would it be?
Oh, just one thing. I would say that people are extremely excited about the future. Every employee, every person that's there in the organization is extremely excited about what the future holds for us. And I think that's really the one thing that I think has changed and kind of come in, is a lot of excitement. The team's extremely excited. everyone's looking forward to. It could be because we're stepping out of the pandemic, and I think the last 2-3 months have been good as far as the business also goes. So I think it's a mixture of things. The environment is good. Everyone's kind of gelling together. So the only one thing that I want to talk about is there's a lot of excitement going about in the organization. So I think that's the one thing. The rest of it we will do. The processes and getting together, all that stuff will take its own time. But I think people are excited about Wunderman Thompson.
Because these are also exceedingly tough times for the advertising business. People are questioning the entire creative advertising model. Should you go to a large agency like a Wunderman Thompson, or would you rather go to a relatively smaller agency like an Isobar or a Web Chutney, or and the various other shops that exist, and who will do your creative work in much lesser work than what a large agency would be doing. So these are exceedingly challenging times for the creative business, and people are looking at whether they should be spending the kind of monies or with a large network, with the retainers that you all obviously charge.
See, I think it's a misconception. I don't think let's say the newer agencies are charging any lesser. So I think if you do a little bit of research, everyone's money is now, I don't think the concern that is there for any client. I really think it's about the work and how much energy and excitement and how much of new age ideas are we bringing aboard is what the client really wants. And I think that's where, as I said, the last 3 months and even more in Wunderman Thompson has been that the clients are seeing that, and I think the clients are really enjoying that feeling. I don't think clients really are questioning the monies. They basically are questioning the value that the agency brings on board rather than how much money they are paying. So I think if you are able to bring that to the table, if you are able to make sure that the quality of work is great, if you make sure that you are having the right kind of relationships, and at Wunderman Thompson we've always had that. I think I don't feel that as a challenge. I don't see in the traditional part, as I said, in the traditional advertising business, I don't see that as a challenge. And I certainly am sure that the new age agencies are also not charging any lesser. I mean, they are charging quite a bit as well. So I don't think that's an issue as such.
You use the word new age. Now, should we be calling Wunderman Thompson also a new age agency, because you have an all new CEO, you have a different style of thinking? Would you like to be called a new age agency?
We would like to be called as the agency for this age. Now, whether it's the new age, whether it's they call it the the post-pandemic era, where we say that this is the new reality, where the world is going. I think someone had asked me, for example, what do you think traditional versus digital will happen? I said, why does it have to be versus? And that's where I think us as Wunderman Thompson are really geared up for, is because we understand brands very well. We understand now all the mediums very well. So I think we're the agency for the age that we are living in today, and the new age already come for us. So I think we're the relevant agency for today. I think that's what I would say.
We are doing this interview on Jan 31st, and you've just completed 3 months today.
Exactly.
So how has been the 3 months for you? If I show you some photographs of people, would you recognize them?
I would.
Certainly.
No, absolutely. The first thing I did, the first thing I did was travel to Bombay. I mean, Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay. Of course, I'm based out of. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I couldn't travel to Calcutta and the other offices. But the idea is to meet people and to meet as many people as possible. As I said, there's so much excitement. There are so many good people. Everyone's so really gung-ho about things. I'm the last 3 months have been an absolutely amazing time within Wunderman Thompson, meeting all these wonderful folks that are there. The talent is just phenomenal, and the people are just phenomenal. So I think it's been a good 3 months.
I must confess that I once again, as a journalist, one looks at stories and one looks at needling people, etc., and trying to figure if there's some story when there's none. And Wunderman Thompson is full of a lot of Maharathis, if I might call them. Right? You have people who have done a fantastic amount of work, who've done a great amount of work, and how do they view you as an outsider, as their boss? And some of the people who I've spoken with have said that, well, they're happy that you are there because this is where the agency has to go, and this is where the future is. And rather than lose business to to small timers or other agencies, it's best to look ahead and move forward.
Yeah, it's equally hard for me to work towards also gaining their respect. So it's not going to be just that I am, and I'm very honest. I'm a very honest person and very straightforward person in my talks. It's I understand where everyone is coming from. It's also up to me to be able to gain respect. I can't just say that, oh, I've come in as a CEO and this is what's going to happen. So I think we've established a lot of comfort over the last 3 months. I've really hit it home with all of them. I've enjoyed, and I am continuously conversing with a lot of the teams that are there. So I think it's a great relationship with all the teams, and I'm looking forward to creating some great work together. So I think, yeah, I mean, and only time will tell, how good or bad I am, and how good or bad I am with the team.
Like saying Rishabh Pant captaining the India team with a MS Dhoni and Virat Kohli and various people. I'm not trying to say that,
No, absolutely. I understand. I absolutely understand. But it is equally that I need to get respect, you need to give respect. And that's one of the main things that, is there. And if you have that kind of a way of working, if you give people the due that they have, I don't think anyone will, create that. And as I said, it's up to me also to bring something on the table. It's also something that they feel that is advantageous to Wunderman Thompson. If I'm able to showcase that, why not? And I think I've been able to do that the last 3 months. And yeah, so it's worked.
Yeah, and that's what a host of people who were there working with you at Dentsu and Hangama and all the places that you worked with have told me over the last few months and over the last 1 week when I was sure that I was be speaking with you. So they have a fair number of good things to say, and obviously also the fact that this is perhaps the best way for Wunderman Thompson to move ahead. Now, do you think that this is perhaps the way almost all creative agency networks should be going, where you have an integrated approach towards the creative process, which is not looking at digital and print and television. Print and television are almost integrated, but digital was always looked at as a separate silo. So do you think the time has come in where every agency network must look at an integrated approach rather than have a digital?
Absolutely. And I think especially in creative agencies, and I think it's important because we own the platform, right? The platform idea, the thought thinking first, and then everything else happens from there. So we are the originators of ideas. We are the originators of what the brand should be like. So it absolutely is of critical importance that we talk about the entire process. And as I said, not just one part of it, but for me, the evolution of where Wunderman Thompson needs to go is talk about the entire consumer journey. And for the consumer, it does not matter. He or she does not really distinguish between the physical world and the digital world, or what is traditional, what is digital. They don't kind of look at that. Television is going to be digital in the next 3 years, according to me. For example, I mean, you'll see when the IPL rights come out, what's going to happen, and how digital will change itself from the pricing perspective. So that will bring forward the whole idea of saying it's already come. There's no digital and traditional as such. It's all here. How can we give the best possible mix and the best possible understanding of what the brand wants, the best possible solution? It hopefully will involve a lot of digital. It might not. It depends upon the solution that is best suited for the brand. And I think that's where it needs to come from and consumer. So again, it's a consumer first approach. And I think that's really where the answer lies. So yeah, you have to do it.
One of the things which was said about why traditionally the large agencies don't look at digital in a big way is because the commissions that you get out of creative, the ad films for creative, the ad films for digital commercials don't really cost very much. So you can't really make too much money around on digital ads. Now, is this just a myth, or was this there earlier, and now, earlier you had those Gabbar Singh ads which were just converted to digital, or you have shovelware.
No, I think it's changed. It's changed, and storytelling has also changed. In it's a different medium. You need to also understand that the same storytelling does not work in this medium. You need to be different. I mean, and each, unlike when we talk about traditional medium, where I think most of the formats are quite set, digital, the formats change, they evolve depending upon who you're using. I mean, to give a very simplistic example, when you're consuming YouTube, you consume YouTube in a horizontal format. When you're consuming Instagram and Facebook, they're in a vertical format. As simple as that, for example. So I think it's very critical for us and to understand how when we're developing that content, then there's long format content, there's short format content, for example. So it's not about money. It's more about what is it that suits the brand the most. And now, because the numbers have evolved, number of people who are consuming this content has increased substantially. Like, for example, a spot on IPL in Hotstar versus a spot on IPL in television. Very soon it will have the same amount of people who are watching it, and it's maybe digital will surpass television over a period of time. It's because of that very important number that, and it happened in the post Geo era where our numbers have suddenly exploded. So it's also because two things. One is the number of formats that are there, the content that needs to be generated. At the same time, the sheer number of people who are now consuming this content has also changed. So for the client, it will not seem expensive because now you are reaching out to so many people.
And you mentioned about Hotstar and television, and you also mentioned about the rights opening up. The new rights could be a Facebook or a Geo or Viacom or anything. It's just going to open up, and digital is going to be the mainstay. So what's Shams Jasani all about? What is your screen time like? How much time do you spend on digital?
I don't think I should say it, but it's an insane amount of screen time that is there, because it's really it is a world where we are living in, where we fortunately, unfortunately, are touched by screens a lot. We have television, we have our laptops, desktops, our mobile phones. Of course, a mobile phone is the center device that pretty much everything kind of feeds off and feeds into. So for me, a lot of screen time. For my son, as less as screen time as possible. I think that's where the world is going. It's trying to balance a world with all the screen time in the world that I have, and with my 7-year-old son, who I'm trying to make sure that he doesn't spend too much time on screen. So it's an interesting world that we live in.
Right. And we spoke about you going to various offices, etc. But this entire new work from home culture that is happening, while it has shown the way for the way work is going to happen, but in the entire creative agency process, where there is a lot of ideas that come up with brainstorm, etc. How do you see the workplace of the present, forget the future, really evolving, and the challenges that you face? Because as a digitally first person, you always perhaps dreamed of something like this happening, right?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. I am actually digital first, yes, but I am completely a proponent of working together in offices, and just taking a step back in terms of, see, that's the misnomer. I think advertising is advertising. It doesn't matter what medium you're advertising from. Ideas and concepts. What I have this habit of saying is that what is advertising? It's finding those gems in chaos, and that chaos, you cannot make those beautiful stories and experiences come alive if you're not vibing together and working together. So for me, I think it's very important for people to come together in a physical environment, and really spend time in terms of knocking off ideas, working with each other, I was just talking to a lot of the teams because I keep on holding these town halls, that I would love to hold these town halls physically, because you can't understand the sincerity of what I'm saying, what are the vibe of the room. You can't read that, because I'm a person who kind of likes that. I'm a person who is enjoys the interaction of people around him, and I kind of feed off that vibe. So that happens. Our industry is developed on that. So what the last 2 years, and that's the struggle that the entire industry, and not particularly any particular agency, has gone through, uh, is also that sense of camaraderie, that sense of community has somewhat taken a slight break that is there. While this medium has made sure that we've done great work, we've come together, I think it's time for all of us to find a way in a very safe environment, and making sure that we are adhering to all the rules and regulations. Of course, COVID is not gone, it's still here, making sure that we are very agile in the way we're functioning. But we need to find those moments of inspiration, those moments of coming together. Those can be over a small period of time, pockets of people coming together, making sure that they're all at a safe distance, and making sure that there is safety in place. But I would want a kind of a hybrid working environment. I know that it's not going to go to 100% anytime soon, but I am looking forward to a hybrid working environment where we are going to office a few days, working together. I was in office every single day before this wave hit, since the first day that I joined. So for almost 60 days. But unfortunately, this wave hit, I got COVID as well. But I'm back out of it, and I'm raring to go back to office, because it just that vibe the office gives you is just fantastic. Sorry, I'm just trying to sell the office space, but yeah, I
No,
just
I
I just
understand,
enjoy that.
because it's just as you need to the entire team needs to come together, but even your clients who are paying you
Absolutely.
money, they need to be sure that y'all are giving your best work for them, and y'all are thinking about it.
I think the clients are extremely, and I think the last 2 years, the teams have been wonderful despite all the challenges. And this is across a lot of the agencies that have done it, and in Wunderman Thompson as well. We work very hard in terms of getting things back to the client, and clients have respected that. I don't think that from a client's perspective that's an issue, but I think where it is also that we've not met clients, we've not been able to meet clients. That's another thing. I mean, meeting clients physically again is and whenever the clients are up to it, I think they also see that uh, again, that chemistry going on, because for example, before pitches there used to be chemistry meetings, uh, and a lot of the chemistry meetings is about people actually just sitting in a room and knowing each other. It's difficult to have chemistry meetings when we're talking about on the digital medium. It's I hope so, once we have a good amount of augmented reality and technology taking us one step further, maybe we can get to that. But at present, I think it would be lovely to have some, and I think all of us are just wanting to get back to some form of a reality, normalcy as such. And I'm really hoping that comes soon.
The other Shams Jasani that we would like to know about is: are you an aggressive player? This is something which not too many people could answer. This question of mine is: are you going to be on the hunt for new clients, taking away
Oh
clients
yeah.
from elsewhere, etc.? Is there some kind of an objective that you have set for yourself?
Yes, 3 years, doubling ourselves in terms of growth. So and the scale that we are. We want to double the size of Wunderman Thompson in the next 3 years. So very much extremely aggressive. I always been extremely aggressive in that. We've stated that ambition is a very important part of where we want to go as Wunderman Thompson. So yes, we are going to be aggressive. We are going to be, really looking forward to gaining clients, and in newer areas as well. I mean, traditionally, of course, I mean, there is a lot that we've done, and we'll keep on doing a lot of, as the agency part of our business grows. But as the newer part of our business in commerce, in technology, I think that's where, in health. So another thing coming up, watch out this space, is health. I think is going to be very critical, and you will hear from us in February on something in health. So I think these are categories which we see Of course, our bread and butter will always grow. We want to do better. We want to be better in all parts of our business. Digital is going to, of course, take a big role in what we do. But I think health, commerce, and technology are really a big focus for us also. So I think substantial growth will come from there.
So are we talking about Wunderman Thompson healthcare division coming up?
Let's give it a couple of weeks. You'll know soon.
And interesting that you mentioned about commerce, because I remember when you were at Isobar, you did set up a commerce division, and you were working with e-commerce players in facilitating stuff. So is that something that you are looking at doing here as well?
Absolutely. There actually is a very large team called Wunderman Thompson that sits out of Delhi already. It's one of the most phenomenal commerce teams that exists in any part of the world, and it's a matter of pride that we have it in India, and they have global expertise, and then they do global level work, and we are going to dip into their expertise to be able to offer a lot of those commerce experiences and technologies to clients in India. So I think it already exists. It's already a good team, a big team that exists. We're just bringing that to clients in India and working closely with them.
In terms of the pie and the buckets of the business that you will have, what is the current pie looking like, and what do you anticipate it would be in 3 years from now in terms of revenues? For instance, you have a creative agency, you have digital, you have there's a lot of different sources of revenues that come in for a
I've not put a percentage, but I would say that creative is still going to be our biggest part of our business. So let's put it that way, that's going to still be front and center. That's still going to be our bread and butter. But what will change is that for us, it's going to be agnostic. It's not going to be any medium specific. There's no, as I've always said, there's no digital or traditional. It's going to be across the medium. So I think that's going to be always our key revenue driver in India. But I think the next biggest is going to be commerce and health. These are going to be our two biggest verticals as such going into the future, and then technology. I think if I have to break it up, and by technology I mean MarTech. So that's where, when I'm saying technology, it's going to be predominantly MarTech that's going to drive that. And we've got Mirum, for example, which is a very large MarTech agency, digital/MarTech agency, which is a part of the group. And the other thing is that there'll be a much closer working relationship, a much closer integration with Mirum as in 2021 itself, and in 2021, 2022 as we go forward.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was going to say. While Mirum is part of the Wunderman Thompson portfolio, it's not really integrated as well.
So that's one of the things that we are working very hard on, and with Sanjay and Harish, it's clearly a fantastic team that they have. It's just that we found a way to actually bring those two the agencies together, and will be very closely working with them very closely. And it's something which they're also very keen on in terms of just building that up as we are going into 2021, 2022, and 2023. So lot more integration with them, and lot more good things for.
Any acquisitions that you would look at?
Yes.
You were, when you were with Denso, you were on an acquisition spree.
Yes. Absolutely. Acquisition is going to be one of a key way to fuel our ambitious growth. That's going to be there. Our agenda that's to double our growth. Acquisition is going to be there. We are looking at acquisitions in the data, this consumer experience, UI UX space that is there, and of course technology. So these are the spaces that we are looking at, and commerce. So these are the four main spaces that we are looking at investing in the future. So yes, the horizon is open. We are keeping our eyes open in good acquisition, which can be of strategic importance to us.
Acquisition is one of organizations and businesses, but also of talent, because you're looking at healthcare and technology, and these are areas where you also need to look at having a fair amount of domain experience and people of a different culture altogether.
Absolutely.
So is that something that is the HR team working overtime on that?
As I said, just give me 15 days, you will hear a lot about in terms of the healthcare. From a technology perspective, yes, we need certain skill sets that we need to bring in, which we need to add to the already existing, brilliant skill sets that we have. From a tech perspective, especially in the innovations, the newer areas of tech that we are looking at, voice tech, for example, augmented reality, virtual realities that we are looking at, a metaverse, another thing that I think globally Wunderman Thompson is talking a lot about. So yes, we will be bringing in talent, and of course, upgrading the talent that we have to also work. There are a lot of youngsters who are coming across and saying, okay, we want to do this, for example. I think it's a balance of finding the talent that's already there, plus adding to it from the newer talent that's coming in.
So what next coming up from, you mentioned healthcare, but is there anything else that one can expect from the Wunderman Thompson stable?
A lot. I think you will hear a lot of from us, at least in the next 6 months. Healthcare is one push that we're making, of course. We will be also talking about commerce, I think a lot more. We are going to talk about, from the metaverse perspective as well. There are a lot of global interest in metaverse and our global push on metaverse as well. So that's something that is happening. But I think the one thing that I want to bring everything back to is finally we're a creative agency. So it's about just making sure that our creative speaks for Wunderman Thompson, and we are always being seen as a creative agency. One thing that I'm going to say is, while we're launching all of these, I want making sure that we are giving these newer challenges to our people and to the clients. I think we finally need to understand that we are a creative agency, and excel at creative is something which, again, hopefully over the next 6 months, and this is award season, so let's see.
And in terms of talent, are you looking at more any acquisition of creative talent from outside? Is that something also which is planned?
I think it's more about the mix that is there. I think that really is up to Senthil to decide, and for Sagar to decide, for example, and the creative powers that be. I think it's very important for them to decide. But I think that what we are looking at is really looking at the mix of how the creative talent is, and then working with the creative leadership to be able to just kind of get the right people in, to be able to add those newer avenues. I would say that's where we're looking at talent. Otherwise, I think from a creative perspective, I think we already are doing great, and some great work is happening within Wunderman Thompson.
Great. On that note, Shams, it was a delight speaking with you. Getting to know you and getting to know what your thoughts for the all new Wunderman Thompson is all about and we're looking forward to the announcements that you would make, 2 weeks, 6 months, etc. And we will be checking our inboxes more regularly for mails from you. And pleasure speaking with you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay.